Hi, everyone. This is live. So we have glitches. So let's start again. Welcome, everybody. Hope you're all staying safe and healthy. I'm Lisa Grissom. I'm the Special Projects Director for Yiddishkeit, and I'm super excited to welcome you this afternoon to Planshki and Poetry, a Yiddishkeit pre-Hannuka Salon. We open the event with music from our dear friend and accomplished violinist Zoe Aqua, who joined us from Brooklyn, and we'll hear more from Zoe later in the program. So thank you so much for that, Zoe, and we'll see you in a little bit. First, I'd love to invite Rob Adler-Pekarar, our Executive Director, to join us. Hi.
Hey there, Lisa.
How's it going?
All right. How are you?
Good. We're both here in LA in different parts of the city. So it's fun to see each other on screen. And I'd just love I'd love for you to take a few moments to tell folks about Yiddishkeit, what we do, why we do it, and why this year is such a special one for the organization.
So Yiddishkeit is an organization that's dedicated to exploring the culture, language, art, worldviews, and foodways even of Eastern European Jews as they lived in Europe and all the places they settled around the world and in the United States. And, you know, it's our 25th year this year. It's our anniversary year. It started as a cultural festival here in Los Angeles. 25 years ago was our very first big festival. And I think that one of the things that we're seeing over the past year here is that Yiddish culture and history are probably more important now than ever. And our organization's unique angle, which focuses on the fusion nature of Yiddish and on the relations between cultures, is especially important. And the ways that those relationships like open us up to the riches, not only of the Jewish past, of a specific cultural past, but of all the cultures around us. So that's sort of what Yiddishkeit's been about. And actually, maybe I could just make a quick pitch right now for people's support, for anyone watching us, because, you know, partly because of the disruption that's caused by the pandemic to all the ways that we normally work, our year-end fund drive has gotten kind of woefully delayed. So we depend fully on the support of the public. And so I'm just wondering, it would be great if any of those of you watching this today might just want to go to our website and give a little to support us for the year ahead. It would be so appreciated. It would be a great Hanukkah gift.
Yes, indeed. Great. So thank you for all that. So in preparation for this event, I just want to say when we came up with the idea for this event, we didn't realize just sort of how exciting, culturally fascinating the donut really is. And so we've done this like deep dive into the cross-cultural variations of ponchki, both in terms of language and the variety of recipes that we've uncovered in the last week or so. So before we get into all that, I've been practicing. And since you're a linguistic expert of sorts, I thought you'd indulge me as I try to pronounce this word in a variety of Eastern European languages. So feel free to correct me at any point.
Okay.
All right, here goes. So, ponchki is Polish. Ponchik or ponchiki is Russian. Ponchkis or ponchki is Yiddish. Yeah?
Yeah, so those are the singular and the plural, right? Because ponchki is plural and ponchik is singular, and the same in all those other languages. Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, I practiced, okay. And these are all derived from a Proto-Slavic root, which I learned from you this week. So maybe
that's right.
Talk more about that.
Yeah, I mean, so most of these pastries that we call ponchki or ponchiki, or the ponchik or ponchek, are all originally from a particular Polish pastry, the ponchek, and that has its roots in a Slavic root word, a Proto-Slavic root word punk, which means a bud or a blossom. And there are words in other Slavic languages that share that same Proto-Slavic root, but the punchik, which is the diminutive, the kind of endearing small form of the punk, which means like little blossom, and that has to do with the way that the dough, the yeasted dough, expands or blossoms out in the frying in the oil. Comes from this Polish pastry, this filled Polish donut, what we would normally just call a donut. And then it kind of expanded and changed its form depending on all these different cultures, these different languages and cultures that the ponchik, this puffy blossom donut ended up in. So yeah, in Russian, Belarusian, all the languages around have their own variant of the ponchik. Yeah.
That's really cool.
And in Yiddish, right? And then the Yiddish version, the punchkis, is from that Polish region. Sometimes it's pronounced accordingly in all the different loan languages that influence Yiddish, because Yiddish takes on the cultural, the foodways and all the plants and foods of all the cultures that surround it.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So tell us a little bit about how donuts became associated with Hanukkah. And maybe you can talk a little bit about why this phenomenon is sort of an Ashkenazic phenomenon.
Well, so originally the key Ashkenazic dish for Hanukkah was by and large the latke. And part of this idea about frying things in oil has to do with the miracle of the oil for Hanukkah. So frying things in oil has a symbolic sort of meaning within the history of the holiday. But for the most part, Ashkenazim generally for Hanukkah ate latkes. That was the kind of savory delicacy that was eaten, the potato pancake, which was eaten in all of its different potato pancake forms all around Central and Eastern Europe. And no doubt other fried dough treats were eaten too, but sort of the latke was the Yiddish cultural food. But however, among Sephardim and Mizrahim, Jews of North African and the Arab world, fried sweets were eaten for Hanukkah. So it was more traditional among the Sephardic Jewish community to eat these kinds of fried sweet dishes that were more like donuts. So, for example, in Ladino, there are things that are called buñuelos or buñuelos, and among Maghrebi or North African Jews, they have yo-yos, which are more like a kind of an Italian-style donut, or svenj, which is were traditionally eaten for Hanukkah. Now, the history of the eating of pancakes among Ashkenazic Jews has to do with the moments that Ashkenazim and Sephardim came together, particularly both in pre-state of Israel-Palestine and then later in Israel. So that's sort of the ways that more Ashkenazic Jews started eating donuts for Passover. And my sense is that actually as early as the 1920s and 30s, there was a push in mandatory Palestine to make a bakery-made product a Hanukkah treat. For just because latkes generally were just a home-cooked meal, and even these more Sephardic dishes, these fried dough dishes, were also generally things that were made at home. There was kind of a professionalization, industrialization push to get a new fried dough treat to be the Hanukkah treat. And since the bakery culture in mandatory Palestine and then even later in Israel was kind of modeled after the Central European German pastry shops, the pastry that becomes the donut for Hanukkah becomes what's most similar to what we call in German a Krapfen or a Berliner donut, becomes the standard thing for this for Hanukkah, and it takes on a new name in the process, which is the sufganiyah.
Yeah, and I was reading this week too that in Israel, bakeries are doing all sorts of variations on sufganiyot now, and we'll post some of this on our website too. On our Facebook page. But there's just an explosion. I mean, it's really popular now, and people are just running with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which makes it fun. I mean, you can put anything in it.
That's right. And I mean, it's also really interesting from like the way we talk about Yiddish and the language and the influences and how the actual object gets transformed into all these new things, especially this word itself, sufganiyah, which then kind of gets like back translated in the mouths of Ashkenazic Jews who spoke Yiddish and Polish as ponchkis, has its roots actually in this North African dish, the svenge, which I think, at least I think you put up a post about the svenge recipe, and that shares a root with this word sufganiyah, which comes into, yeah.
That's really cool. And I just want to say, as someone who's not an experienced baker, these recipes are very easy. They're so easy. I mean, anybody can make them. So I'm really excited about trying some of these recipes. Okay, great. Well, I think we'll probably leave it there for now, unless there's anything else you'd like to add.
I think that one of the things you just asked at the beginning about how Ashkenazim came to also adapt the donut, the ponchki, the svenge, all these types of things into the into a broader Jewish tradition of eating pastries is interesting. Just to think about the songs that we sing for Hanukkah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like we have these like the classic Yiddish Hanukkah song, Oy Hanukkah, which is written by Avram Reisman, has a line in it about eating latkes. Like it says, Zude kesa latkes est onashir, like we'll eat piping hot latkes, innumerable latkes. But when that song gets translated into Hebrew for Israeli culture, that line is replaced with sufganiyot nochal bam larov. So we have this line, the latkes are then replaced with this new cross-pan kind of Jewish tradition. And then, in fact, the kind of more modern Ladino songs written about Hanukkah, like Flori Jagoda's song, Ocho Candalikas, which becomes kind of now the kind of this great hit for Hanukkah in Ladino, also mentions these fried treats, these pastalicos con miel, the little pastries that are served with honey dip pastries. So the way these things move between cultures is really interesting. The way that they kind of take on new significances and replace the older or more traditional Ashkenazic and become this kind of pan-Jewish new thing, which I think over the past 50 years, these donuts have become a traditional Hanukkah treat.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I don't remember jelly donuts, sufganiyot, when I was a kid. They've really kind of, I don't know, they've hit the culinary scene in a new way. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, and I think it really shows us something about the way that, like, for Jewish life in the diaspora, the way that Israeli culture continues to shape our traditions in the United States and all around the world, that this kind of Hanukkah donut, which gets its start as this in Israel in a certain sense, even though it comes from a German tradition of assimilating Sephardic Mizrahi tradition, then gets exported and becomes this new Hanukkah tradition. Absolutely.
Yeah, really cool. Well, we'll talk to Roxana about how she started making these in a little bit. So thank you. We'll see you a little bit later.
Okay.
I'm going to bring on our friend Moriel Rothman-Zecher. Hi. You're muted too.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Thanks for being here. We're super excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So Moriel is an award-winning novelist. His debut novel, Sadness is a White Bird, won several awards, and he's a two-time MacDowell Fellow as well. please go visit his website for all of his essays and accolades and all these things. But we invited him here today. We invited you here today to read an original poem. So we'd love to hear what you've got to offer for us today.
Great. Thank you. So when invited to join this wonderful program, I thought a little bit about what's bringing me light in these days and what's sort of sparking moments of joy and inspiration amidst all sorts of khoshech, all sorts of darkness. And I definitely, I mean, it felt quite on the nose because it really is coming a lot from Yiddish poetry. So basically every morning before I start writing these days, I'm working on a new novel that weaves in and out of the worlds of Yiddish poetry of the 20s and 30s. And so every morning I read a different poem. Sometimes I gravitate back to my favorites, but spanning through this realm of 50 or 60 poets writing in this period. And so I wanted to share a short piece I wrote that was kind of a tribute to one of the poets whose work I resonated with.
Lovely.
The piece is called Shmerke. Shmerke. God damn how I love you, Shmerke Kazherginsky. We never overlapped alive, but I felt a shtickle of pride when the Times called you raffish, even though you weren't blessed, Shmerke, with the requisite quadrisyllabic moniker of most folk heroes, Abba Kovner, Frederick Douglass, Leonard Cohen, Lady Gaga. Your pal, Avraham Sutzkever, nearly managed to have both an enduring legend and 6 syllables, but Shmerke, even Wikipedia knows that he went by Avrom. And you don't have much of an American Wikipedia. Fe on America and its Wikipedia, though, Shmerke. When your poems cover the skies of both South and North, Zaimir Moichel, though, Shmerke. Even I prefer to call you by your first name because, Shmerke, even I, after a whole month-long Yiddish intensive, don't know where to sink my milky Amerikanischer tongue into Kazherginsky. But Shmerke, I know from elsewhere on the internet that you weren't blessed in other ways too, and so hope you'll forgive the light-hearted tone of these early stanzas, because I can barely peel back my eyelids to look at the slaughter this morning, Shmerke, or even at more randomized deaths like the one that consumed your body a few years after the Germans failed to extinguish your flame, Shmerke, in a plane against the Andes. Bars of tango and weariness, and all your unwritten psalms rising from your thin frame, filling the sky like smoke from the hungriest of wildfires, Shmerke. For decades, the debris of plane scraps and bone fragments grew cold. Dew-covered South America is so goddamn far away from home, Shmerke. South America, with its misplaced mountains and thick cloud of holy Yiddish revolutionary sex stanzas hovering over it to this very day, and so did maybe some of your verses drip down onto Ernesto's clavicle as he set out to battle the giant of the North, Shmerke. Do they sprinkle onto fine young warriors' heads of hair? Do they haunt the Germans who grew buttery there? Barricades. Now there's a goddamn radical poem, Shmerke. Chanele, Motje, Mayirke, tables, baskets, and drawers. What supper? What voices? What ghosts? Shmerke, may I wrap my shoulders in the cloak of your disenchantment? May I too be as a deaf mute when they come to take me away? They won't come to take me away, Shmerke, digested as I am in the belly of the northern giant. But that's what we always say at first. So if they come to take me away, may my unwritten poems dance the tango with yours above the Andes, Shmerke, nibbling suggestively on God's lip, O prince of our people, Shmerke, saver of books, O poet, scorner of death by firing squad, ghetto brandisher of orphaned pens and rifles, Shmerke, plane crashed sibling, forever mourner, Shmerke Kazherginsky.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That was amazing. I need to clap. I'm sorry. I have to clap. Thank you so much. I want to sit with that poem for a little while and spend some time with it. Thank you so, so much. We'll return you now to your hut in Ohio, where you're working on your second novel called, you tell us.
Called Dust Village, Philadelphia. An easy quadrisyllabic name. Just kidding. Yes, Dust Village, one word, comma, Philadelphia, with a Y-E at the end rather than an A.
Fantastic. And you can learn more about Moriel here. So we'll say so long for now, and we'll see you in a little bit. Thank you. Bye. Fantastic. Okay, so now we're at the place where we can get to the yummy stuff. We've got Roxana waiting in the wings, Roxana Julapat of Friends and Family, the incredible restaurant bakery here in Los Angeles. Hi, Roxana. I'm hoping we can hear you. We had some, let's see. Roxana, I think you need to unmute yourself. Yeah, we need you to unmute yourself. Yeah. This is live, everybody.
All right.
Live, yes.
You can hear me now.
This is live, yep, we can hear you now. And the other,
well,
that's good. The other camera, though, is not quite,
so we're going to do just one camera.
Okay, great. Here we go. So, thank you so much for joining us. This has been just so fun to have you jump in. I would love to, for those of you who don't know about Roxana, she's just an incredible person. She's not only is she the pastry chef, master baker, owner of Friends and Family in East Hollywood with her husband, Chef Daniel Matern. She is so generous with her time. We met a while ago, I think over 6 years ago, when we did an event for the Skirball. It was for a project called Beyond Bubby, which was all about preserving the recipes, our family recipes, for Reboot. Give a shout out to Reboot for that. And we did this panel where we had Roxana, we had Jonathan Gold, whom we all miss dearly, Akasha Richmond of Akasha, and Michael Wexler, Wexler's Deli. I think that's all of us. And everyone was on stage. It was moderated by Evan Kleiman. And everyone was on stage and sort of reliving their cultural memories. And it was just so fascinating to have you there with us. And I'll never forget, you made tres leches cake, I believe, for everybody. Yeah. So I would love to just hear from you a little bit about how your culture affects sort of what you're doing in the kitchen.
All right.
Also, how you began to make Sucragnoc, because you had told me the other day that it actually started from that experience.
So, right around this time of year, we always make Hannuka donuts. Well, now we call them Hannuka donuts. I've called them Sucragnoc, but people ask, what's that all the time?
Yeah.
But I used to have, before we opened Friends and Family, this kind of like crazy little bakery that drives us crazy, but also fills us with pride. We had a restaurant, my husband and I, and it was called Cooks County. It was on Beverly, very close to Fairfax. And we had a really, really good brunch, really busy, one of those LA classic brunches. Like super seasonal, super tasty, like where you have to wait a little bit to get seated. And one of the things that I would make all the time was jelly donuts. Because I love to make jam, and we would make like tons, big batches of jam, strawberry and rhubarb, and even throw some other things in there, like for example, blood orange juice to like kick up the acid and the vibrant color. So, I would just make donuts. And I think it was around the time that we met. People from your crew, and that neighborhood tends to be very Jewish and kind of like closer to the west side, mid city, and right around the time that Hanukkah would come, people would order the donuts just to take home. So naturally, when we opened the bakery, like it felt like we should do it, and I happened to have a few Jewish bakers. So over time, I've had a few Jewish bakers in my crew who had never made jelly donuts. So we make jelly donuts. Everybody likes them. We have to put a limit on how many you can take home, so that we're not frying donuts all day. But you know, they're really fun to make. They're super easy to make. For me, it's all about the jam, honestly, or the jelly. Yeah. So we'll make those probably this Friday, right? That's the first night of Hanukkah. This coming Friday.
Yes, this Friday. Yep.
And that's probably our busiest day, and then we'll make them special orders that people want them throughout the week. Yeah, that's it.
That sounds fantastic. So let's, just wondering if the audio is a little bit quiet, so we might need you to speak just a little bit. Yeah.
Maybe I'll just talk louder.
Yeah, talk louder. That's great.
Okay.
We want to hear you. Okay, so let's get started. We're ready to get started. Yeah, we're super excited to see how you do this.
This is a very, very easy dough to make, and I can share the recipe. Maybe we'll have a little email exchange after this.
Yeah.
And there's no real secret to make a good donut dough. Perhaps only, I should pull back, just to make sure that you have enough liquid. That's kind of like rule of thumb with fried doughs, is that you want that batter or dough to be loose enough, right? So it is yeasted. So I'm gonna actually use some buttermilk that is slightly warm, like lukewarm, to dissolve some instant yeast. That's what we're gonna do here. And then that takes no time. And I'm gonna put a mixture of flour. So whenever I use flour, I try to make sure that there's a portion of whole grain in it, or as much whole grain in it. In this case, I have all-purpose flour and a very soft, beautiful flour grown here in California. It's called Sonora wheat, and I purchased from my local miller, Kristen Toll. She's based in Pasadena. And you would think like something really light wouldn't take well to whole grains, but actually that's not true. Whole grains fit everywhere. I'm also going to put some sugar in there. Then I have some butter that is actually at room temperature. And then contributing to my liquid is 3 eggs that I just beat lightly, and some butter, sour cream or creme fraiche. And for those of you who are fans of Latino markets, you can also use crema americana. That's really good too. It's really nice.
Can you repeat that? The last part, we lost you a little bit there. Can you repeat that last bit about?
Go back to sour cream?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can use sour cream. You can use creme fraiche, which is the French version. Or if you happen to frequent Latino markets, you could use crema mexicana, because it's very sour, and actually it does a really good in this kind of doughs.
Great.
It's really great flavor, and also makes them really supple. Next, I'm gonna do the dissolved yeast. I'm mixing it in a stand mixer. It takes no time. You could do it by hand also, just a little messy, but you could definitely do it by hand. I'm gonna use a mixer. And then you won't hear me for a minute while I have the mixer on, but you're just gonna mix for 1 minute really until it comes together, and then I'm gonna increase the speed for 2 minutes more or less until it develops the structure. And that just means that those proteins like gluten in the flour is getting stronger and just coming together as a dough. And you want your dough to have a little bit of strength so that it can withstand the frying. So, that's right, we have to plug it in.
Before you start, Ari, can you move the sound computer a little bit to the right?
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, so mixing on low speed first.
It's very meditative, I'm just saying.
Yes, I'm gonna increase the temperature right around now. I'm gonna increase the speed. So you can tell that it's really soft, almost like a cake batter. It actually smells already really delicious, right, Ari? Like it's kind of nice and thick and somewhat sticky. And then I find it really useful at this point to actually knead it on the table very briefly.
Mm.
And then to do that, we just like sprinkle a little flour. I'm gonna get all my donut here. This yields about 15 donuts. So it's a good size recipe. And you could actually use all of it. Like you can actually have zero waste. And I'll show you how to make the most of it when we start cutting them. So this happy dough over here. So when we say knead on the table, it's just so that it's more uniform. And you just kind of want it to come together. Notice how I have plenty of flour just so that it doesn't stick to the table and in my hands as well. And then I just kind of roll it into this nice kind of little ball. So it should be a happy little dough like that. It should look like a baby's butt. So then this goes on a little bowl. It's advisable that you either grease the bowl with oil or butter or even like nonstick spray. And then you're going to put a lid on it, whether it is a little bit of plastic wrap or a kitchen towel. And I'll show you what it looks like. It looks like this. So this is my baby donut that just has been risen for a few hours. This I didn't use a massive amount of yeast, so this recipe takes about 2 to 3 hours to rise, especially now that it's winter. It kind of moves a little slow. Okay, so but rule of thumb, anything with yeast in it needs a rising time of 1 to 2 hours. So that's important when you plan to make the donuts because you really need to like allow for that period of time, or the donuts just don't work. I tried, so they don't. So what happened here in this rising period is that there was a little bit of fermentation. So our yeast metabolized some of the starch in the dough and converted it to gas, in this case CO2, and that's what made it rise. And that's why it's kind of puffy. Actually, really kind of fun, satisfying. And next, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Well, okay. So I'm gonna roll and cut. So for this, we definitely want to use a decent amount of flour. And then I'm gonna very gently put my dough here. So notice how the baby butt exterior was on the other side. So I'm gonna flip it so that I have a really nice smooth surface to cut. So probably will need a little bit more. So it's very soft. It's very beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, it's like I wish you could touch it. It feels really nice. So I like to actually use my hands to flatten it out like this. And then if that doesn't work for you, you can definitely be very gentle and use a rolling pin. And I always have a hard time describing how thick this should be. because I don't want people going really aggressively on the dough. I want it to be like you still like this, even though like we rolled it down, this is still nice and soft, and it should remain so to get a really tender donut. So I usually for the store, I like to cut them really small, but for our purposes, we can use a little larger. Like, you know, if you don't want to make several batches of frying and you want a larger donut, you can do that. But I cut them a little, just a tiny little bit smaller.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Where's my flour? Here. So definitely make sure that your cutter, which in this case is a round cutter, kind of like the stuff you use to make biscuits. Some people like to use the bottom of a glass. That would be like emergency, like you really don't have the tools. But I don't love it because it kind of like can squash the dough. So I'm gonna have my little baby donut. And see, they look like this. They're really pretty. They're really cute to look at, and they feel really light. That's how I know that that we did a good job with the dough. So I'm gonna cut a few, as many as possible, so that you all can see. And it's always like easier to get fat in the middle. They're like humans, so I might pat down the dough towards the center where it's harder to get thinner. So, and then you're gonna heat up vegetable oil to between 360 and 375. Is that what we got? Okay, good. 345. Okay, you just turn it up. Okay, good. You can I think 375 should be the highest because otherwise you can get too much color before you are cooked all the way through. And then you can use this a tabletop fryer if you have one. We have just a pot of oil. I'll show you guys in a minute our setup. So here I have my donuts, but I want to show you what to do with scraps. So once you have scraps, you just like dust them off some of that dough. Of that flour so that they don't dry out from too much flour. And then I do like to make myself a little second dough. And in a business like mine, where we're trying to make the most out of every opportunity, every piece of dough, that's how we make our dough. You actually would save this little second baby butt, let it rest for another hour, and you can cut another round of donuts. So you can have seconds later that day. Another thing that is cool to know is like for those of you who like to plan ahead, is that these donuts, once cut, can be refrigerated with if you cover them really well. Like say you put them I would put them in a pan like this, and then wrap them in plastic. Like these donuts can be refrigerated, and then you can fry them the next day. So it helps to break down the process over a few days so that you don't have to do everything in one swoop. Some people like that. I feel like that's a cool trick. So I recommend that you use a digital thermometer to monitor your oil. Make sure that you're nice and hot. We are pretty hot. Yeah, we're like okay. So I'm gonna move. Okay, any questions up to this point?
Quick question. Do you recommend proofing these again after cutting?
You know, notice how I was very gentle with them. That's how I didn't have to proof them again.
Okay.
You can, like even like just this few minutes while we talk, that's enough proofing time. Like, you see what I mean? Like just already, they have already expanded.
Okay, cool.
And if you were to refrigerate them, I would recommend that you let them, proofing is like that rising time that you give breads towards the final stages before you bake them or cooking. So that's what proofing was, in case somebody was wondering what that funny word was. And what I like here is, what were we talking about proofing? Oh, so if you were to refrigerate this donuts, the next day you would pull them out and let them sit for a good hour. Not only so that they can proof just a tiny little bit and do this expansion thing, but more than anything, so that they are not super cold when they hit the fryer. More
Great.
questions?
I don't know if we have any other
So
questions.
the donuts do, keep in mind that the donuts will expand quite a bit in the frying oil. So this is what I call the pretty side, right? And this is the side that was on top when we cut them. So we want to put them in the frying oil, pretty side down.
Interesting.
And then they do a little dance in there. They go to the bottom and then they come back up.
So you don't need a deep fryer, right? You can use.
I am very happy, especially at home. Like a pot of oil works really well. You know, just make sure that you have. This is kind of like, what is this? Like a 6-quart pot, and I have probably like 2-3 quarts of oil. So just make sure that you have a good depth, at least a couple inches deep. But no, you don't need a deep fryer.
And what kind of oil is it, Roxana?
So this is canola. You can use anything that can withstand, that has a high burning temperature. So anything that is, you know, like I hate to say it because it's like stuff that all the people say that is bad for you, like peanut oil.
Right.
There's rice bran oil is really good too. There's which it's just like they use in Chinese restaurants. There, you know, there's corn oil. You know, any of those are good. You know, even Crisco is good. You know, I don't use it ever, but
We do have a question. Is it possible to bake these instead of fry them?
No, not this recipe. A lot of people like, so I just want to point something out. So see how you have color already?
Yeah.
I'm going to flip them.
Oh, nice.
And then they're going to start to fry on the other side. So what was the question was?
Can you bake instead of fry? But you were saying.
No, this is not ideal for baking. If you're gonna bake a donut, you should probably use just a cupcake recipe. Like there's no such thing as a baked donut, really. It's just bake with a donut shape.
Yeah, I think there are variations. We've learned in our research there are variations for non-yeasted.
Yeah, and you know, some people make this, you know, like a gluten-free doughs tend to not fry very well, so people do bake them.
We just for our audience, we will share a lot of what we've learned on our event page, just to share with everybody because we learned a lot of different recipes.
So I will test. You know how like when you're baking a cake, you use a skewer to insert and make sure for doneness. We'll do the same. They take a little bit longer than you would think. They're quite a bit massy in the middle, so don't under fry. That's definitely not great.
Can you review again why it matters which side to drop it in? Yeah.
Can I review why? Sorry. That side.
Yeah, which side?
Because so I'll tell you why. So see how this side has a rupture here. They don't always have it, but see how these guys. So if you put the other side, they're like it tends to be a more imperfect side, so they tend to have more. So see how I just flipped that. So that's the side that was down when we cut them. So they tend to be not as pretty on that side.
I see.
So I like to get my pretty side down first.
Yeah.
I mean, and then we're gonna cover them in sugar, so it
doesn't
really matter.
It's gonna be
you know,
so nobody will know.
Doing this professionally will make you a little. So I just inserted the skewer, and you can tell that it's a little bit still doughy.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it another minute or so. And then at this point, I want to be very careful with them and maybe sit them, and like I might flip them to the other side if I feel like they're getting too dark. I feel like they're okay.
I love that, babysitting the donut.
Babysit your donuts for sure. They like it. And then I'm gonna have right next to me paper towels so that we can drain them.
And Roxana, what do you do with the oil? How do you deal with the oil at the end?
Oh well, you know, because I work in a restaurant, like we have a service that comes and picks it up.
I see.
Which is not what you want to hear, right?
Right.
Okay, I think we're getting very close. 30 more seconds. So at home, this is a Martha Stewart trick. I mean, if you can use it one more time. After that, I think I've read. I don't know exactly why, but I feel like the oil starts to oxidize and deteriorate, and it's actually not really good for you. So you shouldn't recycle your oil too many times. And you'll know because it actually starts to get really, really dark, as in it has oxidized. But you really want to, after you use it, people soak it in paper towels so you can dispose of it. So that's one way. Another thing is like you can find, if like, for example, you know that during this season, you're going to make a lot of donuts and latkes and fried stuff. You could certainly reserve all your oil and take it to any plant of places that make biodiesel. There are a lot more than you would think, a lot more. Like you just have to do a quick search. In fact, the people that pick up our oil here at the restaurant are one of such places.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so so now these guys are ripping hot. Ideally, if we had the benefit of time, I would let them cool completely, right? And then once they're cool, I'm gonna pretend they're cool. But once they're cool, I'm gonna take a paring knife. Maybe you can pass me one from the back. I'm gonna take.
Can I come over to Friends and Family right now? Can I come over and get some?
Come over. If you only knew, I have so many projects here. I tested also a Christmas cake. So I have like all the holidays, all the faiths are colliding here.
Yep.
And I also tested another meat pie. Okay, so here's my buddy, and I have powder. This is just granulated sugar. This is not a mandatory step, but you know I'm a pastry chef, so I can't help myself. So I'm gonna make it as best as I can. So this is just granulated sugar with a little bit of really good cinnamon, ground cinnamon. And then notice how I just kind of like stabbed it in the middle and made a little, what is this called? A little wiggle. And then right here, then we're gonna get scissors. And this is our jam. I made this just for these donuts. And this is, actually I used raspberries and rhubarb for this.
Oh my God.
Things to find this time of year, but I have ways.
Those are my favorites.
This guy in there and fill her up.
This is the exciting part.
This is so awesome. And then, okay, come on, get in there. And you know, I know that I did a good job because I can feel that it's heavy.
Yes.
And okay, so let's fill all of them so that y'all can see. And then, so I find it's easier to do the rolling first and then the filling after. I don't know why. That's just kind of like the way it is. I mean, I've definitely made a few hundreds of this, so kind of like at some point.
When you stab it, are you stabbing it kind of deeply?
I'm totally stabbing it deeply, like 3/4 of the way.
Yeah.
I want a huge cavity for my jammy.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, let's bring a plate so that we're not like hacking it out right here. Oh, you guys want to see the dough? So,
And then
our director just left me. Hold on.
Oh, she did? Ari left?
Ari just went to get a plate because she felt like I was hacking it out. So, okay. So notice, I'll tell you how far in I'm going. Ooh, see?
Oh, wow. I see. Yeah.
And then you do your wiggle. It's like a lobotomy.
And do you exclusively use jelly or jam, or do you use other fillings as well?
You know, I know that people use Nutella of all things. Or like a really good. So see, this is a piece of rhubarb, so I'm gonna pull it out so it's not squirting out. People also use like chocolate pastry cream, but then for me, right? Like then I can't have it on the pastry case because like then it has eggs and it's like a little bit of a safety issue.
Right.
But yeah, just make sure that it's a jam or a filling that has a lot of body. You know.
And do you sell your jam over there at
I
Friends of-
used to, but you know now during COVID times I'm a little understaffed.
Yeah.
And all my jam buddies are not with me anymore, or less hours. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, I also buy really expensive fruit, so it becomes a little bit. You know, fruit in California is really really good, but it's also very expensive. So it's kind of like not a lot of return. So so this is. I let them sit just for a bit in case they spit out some of the jam, so I can clean it out, like kind of like a baby, you know, that spits out their food after they ate. Same.
And tell us, Roxana, are these available? Like you can order these online right now for pickup?
No, they will be on Friday. The first day will be Friday, but let me know. This is the last detail.
Okay, here we go. The piece de resistance.
This is it.
I'm seriously coming over.
Okay. There you go. I'm gonna
amazing. Yes. Oh, they look so good. I have to clap. They look so good.
They're so good. It smells delicious. So, should I bite into one?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm gonna bite into one.
Okay.
Look at that.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
So good.
That looks so good. So good.
But it's
fantastic.
easier to make, right?
Yeah, so easy and so fun.
So easy, so fun. It's even like you would think like this is dangerous to make with kids, but you could do the frying part and they just have them be part of the filling them up.
Yeah. There's so many fun steps to it for kids, you know? Like, yeah, that's really great. Thank you so much. We hope to do this again with you in the future. We want to give a shout out to your new book, Mother Grains, right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, really excited.
I wrote a cookbook about baking and some cooking with grains. It focuses on grains that we grow very well here in the United States and that are becoming really, really important either economically or even culturally for our communities here all across the country. So it's really, really fun. It will be out in April of next year. And there's this recipe's not in it, but there's a few donut recipes in it.
Okay, good. We'll be sure to let everybody know about that.
Cool.
And we'll see you next time, Roxana.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was fun.
Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. That was amazing. I really want one. But we're going to bring Zoe Aqua back with us. Hi, Zoe.
Hi.
Great to see you again.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so great to have you start us off. And so Zoe is, she's amazing. She does many things. She's a violinist. She teaches. You were part of the Broadway production of Indecent. You went on stage 18 times, which was amazing. And you've got you're part of two bands that you started, right? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your musical life.
Sure. During the pandemic, it's been a bit tough because of lack of live performances, but I am a founding member of two bands, which are called Sibylla and Farnacht. And still working on developing some new music for eventually when we can come back and perform in person again.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait. So what else did I want to ask you? Well, I'm just kind of curious. This is a question I've been asking a few people. What, given the situation that we're all in, what is bringing you a sense of light right now, lightness in your day to day? Music, obviously, but is there anything else you want to share?
Well, I was gonna say something musical, but I can say something that's not musical.
No, you can say whatever.
Okay. I think something that's been inspiring to me right now is having a little bit more time to delve into archival recordings, and I've been listening to a lot of like Romanian, Greek, Hasidic music, Chazanis type of stuff, kind of to prepare for this class that I'm teaching about the influences in klezmer music, and just listening to that has been inspiring and fun.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. Something is going on. I don't know what it is, but technically we can't see you as well as we could before, but it's live, so we're just going to roll with it.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to have you kind of close us out. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're going to play?
Sure. I'm just going to do a short medley, starting with a Hasidic nigun and ending with a song by the great Moshe Oisher called Dre Dreidel, which is my personal favorite Hanukkah song.
Great. Here we go. Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm clapping again. Thank you so much, Zoe. We'll see you soon. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Just going to bring Robbie back. Hey.
Hey there. That was great.
That was super fun. And I just want to say, I know people couldn't see it, but Moriel was dancing with his daughter and another child in their house to the music. So it was really lovely. Just want to thank everybody for being here, for being with us, and thank you, Robbie, for all that you do. And yeah, and we hope that if you are able to make a donation, it would be really great to help us continue with our programming.
Yes, and thank you so much, Lisa, for bringing all this together. It's just been delightful, and now we all have to eat donuts.
I know we do. I can't wait to go get some donuts. Happy Hanukkah, everybody.
Happy Hanukkah.